Hey, welcome back to DJ's Chronicles. This time I'm just gonna get back into the next part of this human all too human. And I'm really enjoying this one. I liked getting back into it and I felt really good reading it. I'm a little late on uploading today and I have to work at 7 o'clock in the morning, so I hope it goes well. But thanks for being here, and it is, of course, Nietzsche, just like I said yesterday, and I'm picking up, as always, where I left off. This time it's at 43. I'm just going to read for a little bit and see what I can do. Inhuman men as survivals. Men who are now inhuman must serve us as surviving specimens of earlier civilization. The mountain height of humanity here reveals its lower formations, which might otherwise remain hidden from view. There are surviving specimens of humanity whose brains, through the vicissitudes of heredity, have escaped proper development. They show us what we all were, and thus appall us. But they are a little responsible on this account, as is a piece of granite for being granite. In our own brains, there must be courses and windings corresponding to such characters, just as in the forms of some human organs there survive traces of fishhood. Oh my lord. But these courses and windings are no longer the bed in which flows the stream of our feeling. Really quick, I wanted to say that's exactly why I was calling Nietzsche a madman. That's ridiculous. Sorry, there's a creator, bro. Anyway, enough of my silly feelings when I'm reading this guy's work. 44. Gratitude and revenge. The reason the powerful man is grateful is this: his benefactor has, through his benefaction, invaded the domain of the powerful man and established himself on an equal footing. The powerful man, in turn, invades the domain of the benefactor and gets satisfaction through the act of gratitude. It is a mild form of revenge. By not obtaining the satisfaction of gratitude, the powerful would have shown himself powerless and have ranked as such thenceforward. Hence, every society of the good, that is to say, of the powerful originally, places gratitude among the first of duties. Swift has added the dictum that man is grateful in the same degree that he is revengeful. 45. Twofold historical origin of good and evil. The notion of good and bad has a twofold historical origin, namely, first, in the spirit of ruling races and castes. Oh, Jesus Christ, man! You classist bastard. Sorry. Whoever has power to requite good with good and evil with evil, and actually brings requital, requital that is grateful and revengeful, acquires the name of being good. Whoever is powerless and cannot requite is called bad. A man belongs as a good individual to the good of the community who have a feeling in common because all the individuals are allied with one another through the requiting sentiment. A man belongs as a bad individual to the bad, to a mass of subjugated, powerless men who have no feeling in common. The good are a caste, the bad are a quantity, like dust. Good and bad is, for a considerable period, tantamount to noble and servile, master and slave. That sounds like some bullshit to me. Anyway, on the other hand, an enemy is not looked upon as bad. He can requite. The Trojan and the Greek are in Homer both good. Not he who does no harm, but he who is despised is deemed bad. In the community of the good individuals, the quality of goodness is inherited. It is impossible for a bad individual to grow from such a rich soil. Oh, Jesus. Sorry. If notwithstanding, one of the good individuals does something unworthy of his goodness, recourse is had to, um, what does that even mean? Recourse is had to exorcism. Thus, the guilty is ascribed to a deity. The while it is declared that this deity bewitched the good man into madness and blindness. This sounds a lot like the devil made me do it or some shit. Like, what is he saying? He's literally trying to say, hold on, because like before, he said, people are not responsible for their actions. Okay, don't smoke so much crack. Another thing, just now, he's sitting here saying, good men are bewitched into madness and blindness. No, they were bad men all along. Sorry about you. Sorry, I'm kind of a little frustrated by this right now. And I was enjoying it yesterday. Second, in the spirit of the subjugated, the powerless, here every other man is, to the individual, hostile, inconsiderate, greedy, inhuman, avaricious, avaricious, be he noble or servile. Bad is the characteristic of term. Oh, bad is the characteristic term for man, for every living being, indeed, that is recognized at all, even for a god, human, divine. These notions are tantamount to devilish, bad. manifestations of goodness. Sympathy, hopefulness are regarded with anxiety as trickiness, preludes to an evil end, deception, subtlety, in short, as refined badness. With such a predisposition in individuals, a feeling in common can scarcely arise at all. At most, only the rudest form of it, so that everywhere that this conception of good and evil prevails, the destruction of the individuals. These are not my feelings at all, so please don't jump on me for this, but I'm going to say it. So that everywhere that this conception of good and evil prevails, the destruction of the individuals, their race, and nation is imminent. Our existing morality has developed upon the foundation laid by ruling races and class castes. Okay, calm down, Adolf. Holy fucking shit. Sorry, guys. I'm having problems with it today. This is not working. I'm going to continue. 46. Sympathy greater than suffering. There are circumstances in which sympathy is stronger than the suffering itself. We feel more pain, for instance, when one of our friends becomes guilty of a reprehensible action than if we had done the deed ourselves. We once, that is, had more faith in the purity of his character than he had himself. Hence, our love for him, apparently because of this very faith, is stronger than is his own love for himself. If indeed his egoism really suffers more as a result than our egoism, inasmuch as he must take the consequences of his fault to a greater extent than ourselves. Nevertheless, the unegoistic, this world, is not to be taken too strictly, but simply as a modified form of expression in us is more affected by his guilt than the unegoistic in him. 47. Hypochondria. There are people who, from sympathy and anxiety for others, became hypochondriacal. I think that's how you say it. The resulting form of comparison is nothing else than sickness. So, also, is there a Christian hypochondria from which those singular religiously agitated people suffer who place always before their eyes the suffering and death of Christ? I'm sorry, Jesus. 48. Economy of blessings. The advantageous and the pleasing, as the healthiest growths and powers in the intercourse of men, are such precious treasures that it is much to be wished the use made of these um, balsamic means. Balsamic? Oh my god. Balsamic means whereas economical as possible. But this is impossible. Economy in the use of blessings is the dream of the craziest of utopians. 49. Well wishing. Among the small, but infinitely plentiful, and therefore very potent things, to which science must pay more attention than to the great uncommon things, well wishing must be reckoned. I mean, those manifestations of friendly disposition in intercourse, the laughter of the eye, every hand pressure, every courtesy, from which, in general, every human act gets its quality, every teacher, every functionary adds this element as a gratuity to whatever he does, as a duty. It is the perpetual wellspring of humanity, like the waves of light in which everything grows. Thus, in the narrowest circles within the family, life blooms and flowers only through this kind of feeling. Oh, wait. Life blooms and flowers only through this feeling. The cheerfulness, friendliness, and kindness of a heart are unfailing sources of unegoistic impulse, and have made far more for civilization than those other, more noised manifestations of it, that are styled sympathy, benevolence, and sacrifice. But it is customary to depreciate these little tokens of kindly feeling. And indeed, there is not much of the unegoistic in them. The sum of these little doses is very great. Nevertheless, their combined strength is of the greatest of strength. Thus, too, much more happiness is to be found in the world than gloomy eyes discover. That is, if he calcul if the calculation be just, and all these pleasing moments, in which every day, even the meanest human life is rich, be not forgotten. 50. The desire to inspire compassion. La Rochefoucauld, in the most notable part of his self uh, portraiture, first printed in 1658, reaches the vital spot of truth when he warns all those endowed with reason to be on their guard against compassion. I don't know where you're going with this guy. When he advises that this sentiment be left to men of the masses who stand in need of promptings of the emotions, since they are not guided by reason, to induce them to give aid to the suffering, to be of service in misfortune. Whereas compassion, in his and Plato's view, deprives the heart of strength, To be sure, sympathy should be manifested, but men should take care not to feel it, for the unfortunate are rendered so dull that the manifestation of sympathy affords them the greatest happiness in the world. Perhaps a more effectual effectual warning against this compassion can be given if this need of the unfortunate be considered not simply as stupidity and intellectual weaknesses, not as a sort of distraction of the spirit entitled by misfortune itself, and thus, indeed, does Rochefoucauld seem to view it, but as something quite different and more momentous. Let note be taken of children who cry and scream in order to be compassionated, and who, therefore, await the moment when their condition will be observed, come into contact with the sick and the oppressed in spirits, and try to ascertain if the wailing and sighing, the posturing and posing of misfortune do not have as end and aim the causing of pain to the beholder. The sympathy which each beholder manifests is a consolation to the weak and suffering only inasmuch as they are made to perceive that at least they have the power, notwithstanding all their weaknesses, to inflict pain. Sounds like weakness. The unfortunate experiences a species of joy in the sense of superiority which the manifestation of sympathy entails. His imagination is exalted. He is always strong enough, then, to cause the world pain. Thus is the thirst for sympathy a thirst for self enjoyment, and at the expense of one's fellow creatures. It shows man in the whole rudeness of his own dear self, not in his mere dullness, as La Rochefoucauld thinks. In social conversation, three-fourths of all the questions are asked, and three-fourths of all the replies are made, in order to inflict some little pain. You may have a point there. This is why so many people crave social intercourse. It gives them a sense of their power. In these countless but very small doses in which the quality of badness is administered, it proves a potent stimulation, stimulant of life, to the same extent that well wishing, distributed through the world in like manner, is one of the ever ready restoratives. But will many honorable people be found to admit that there is any pleasure in his ministering pain? Okay. That entertainment, and rare entertainment, is not seldom found in causing others, at least in tough, okay, at least in thought, some pain, and in ranking them with the small shot of wickedness. The majority are too ignoble, and a few are too good to know anything of this uh, Hodinno. The latter may, consequently, be prompt to deny the proper mereme is right when he says, know also that nothing is more common than to do wrong for the pleasure of doing it. Okay, um, I'm going to go ahead and call it a video. I may have overreacted in a couple of spots. I do apologize for some of the bad language on my part, and I apologize if I said anything absolutely horrible because of what he wrote. But that one part, he was pushing some really classist views, and it kind of makes sense because of his position on life. But it's wrong. And also, like I said earlier in the last part, he was pushing the whole humans are not responsible for their actions because they're humans. That's ridiculous. And then the whole saying some people still have some fishiness in their body, like meaning we came from fish. Sorry, bro, you're insane. But I'm only saying all this because I'm reading Friedrich Nietzsche because it interests me to see his views. But by no means do I hold those views. If I said anything screwed up and racist or screwed up and classist or otherwise hateful, I really apologize on behalf of myself and the guy who wrote it. Actually, maybe I'm not allowed to say that, but it's philosophy of old times. What are you going to do about it? I guess I just have to read it. But I mean, like I said, to be clear, I do not believe this stuff, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time, hopefully, if I didn't lose you in all of that.